the last 5 years have each had at least 10 separate billion-dollar disasters. And you can see in 2017 and 2011, it was over 15 billion-dollar disasters in 1 year, in each of those years. And so some of those you can see how they're related. Midwest flooding, the wildfires in California, tropical storms and hurricanes, and hail and things like that. So some of these events, for a hailstorm to be $1 billion disaster, I mean, that's a significant size storm. When we're talking about climate change, we really want to bring it down to a local issue. And here in Rhode Island, we are concerned with the climate changing our seasons. And so this is a picture of maple syrup. And climate is changing not only when trees bloom and when fruits are on trees, but also sap production and other parts of our agriculture. We're talking about different types of fish. So we're gonna be welcoming more mid-Atlantic fish, and a lot of our northern fish are moving out of Narragansett Bay. So lobsters are moving out, blue crabs are moving in. We're gonna have to learn to eat different types of fish. We're also concerned about supply chains and agriculture and where our food is going to come from, because there are regions of the country where food, where the weather is very unpredictable. There's droughts in California. And so we need to really start thinking about our local supply chains, local food, and encouraging more local food consumption. So some of the key challenges here in Rhode Island, as I mentioned, we've increased our temperatures about 3 degrees since 1900, whereas the rest of the United States has risen about 1.5 degrees. We have seen an increase in the number of heavy downpours and heavy storm events. Spring is arriving earlier, and that increases our allergy seasons. Heavy rainstorms are more frequent. Ticks and mosquitoes are also becoming more frequent, and the length of the mosquito season is growing longer. So that means more chance for EEE and West Nile virus to multiply in the mosquitoes. And the longer the mosquitoes live through the year, the more the virus builds up in their bodies. And in terms of our health, this means that allergies are increasing, our respiratory illnesses from air pollution as well, because heat combines with air pollution to create ozone. As I mentioned, more mosquito-borne and tick-borne illnesses because ticks are living now through the winter. Injuries and fatalities due to the extreme weather, waterborne diseases in terms of our shellfish and other harmful algal blooms. We're seeing more and more of that as the water heats up. As I mentioned, impacts on food supply. And all of this is increasing our general anxiety. And then when we do see these large storm events and disasters, there are long-term mental health effects that can come from that. When we talk about health and public health, we talk about the social determinants. So that includes the neighborhood where we live, our community and social context, the food we eat, the air we breathe. As you know, it's really about our community more than it is about our genes or our healthcare system. And we think of climate change as a risk amplifier. So if you're already more vulnerable, if you live in a neighborhood where you're already seeing the effects of climate change, this is just going to increase those risks. And this is our social vulnerability index for Rhode Island, showing based on income, language, whether you have access to a car, family size, things like that, where our most vulnerable communities are. Starting a little bit with asthma and air quality here, we have very high rates of asthma in Rhode Island. They're about 30 to 40% higher in Rhode Island than in other parts of the country. We do have smoke from wildfires that have come down from Canada in some years, but also we have industrial pollution from the New York City metro area and other pollution that comes from the west to Rhode Island. And that's really why we have this, the American Lung Association gives us a C, D, E, F rating depending on the type of air pollution. But the increased exposure can also cause more respiratory symptoms longer in the year. As I mentioned, the heavy rainfall events are increasing. So days where we have 1 inch of rain or more have increased, and that matters because of localized street flooding and runoff and water quality. So and also for droughts, because it won't rain for 2 weeks and then all of a sudden we'll get 2 inches of rain in one day and it will overwhelm our ability to deal with that much water in one day. The Northeast region has the highest increase of heavy precipitation events, and we think, and also humidity events as well. So that has to do with the Atlantic Ocean and the warming of the Atlantic Ocean and changes in the way ocean circulation is happening in the northern Atlantic. So if you remember 2010, when we had the floods in Warwick and other parts of Rhode Island, this is a picture of Bald Hill Road. And if you think about Home Depot and Best Buy and all of these places and what they sell and the gas stations and everything being inundated and what is actually in that flood water and how dangerous and unhealthy flood waters can be, especially when they get into basements and impact people's health. We are also concerned about sea level rise, of course, partially due to the warming Atlantic Ocean again. The sea levels, ocean is expanding and glaciers melting are causing sea level rise. Here in Rhode Island, we've seen about 8 to 10 inches in the last 100 years or so, but we're expecting another 3 feet to 5 feet in the next several decades. And that has implications for downtown Providence, as well as our coastal communities. We do have a hurricane barrier. At some point that will be overwhelmed, and we will have riverine flooding as well as ocean-based flooding. So we need to take that into consideration. Ticks have expanded their territories. In the first graph shows 1994 and where you're most likely to encounter a tick in Rhode Island, and then now basically it's high risk everywhere across the state. In terms of extreme heat, we are concerned here in Rhode Island because a lot of people lack air conditioning, and also in the Northeast, we're not accustomed to heat the way folks are in other parts of the country where it's hot all year round. More people die in heat events in places where there are fluctuations in temperature. So if our average temperature is 70 degrees or 70 or 80 degrees, and all of a sudden we get a stretch in the 90s, our bodies just can't adjust that quickly to those rapid changes in temperature. And so we suffer health consequences because of that. And studies have shown that in Rhode Island, when you get strings of days, multiple days above 85 degrees, that's when, especially for senior citizens and those with compromised health, that's when we start to see emergency department visits go up. Right now, we have an average of 10 days a year of over 90 degrees, although 2016, which was our hottest year on record, we had over 24 days over 90 degrees. And it's projected, that's projected to be commonplace in the next years to come, up to 40 days a year of over 90 degrees. And when you look at the emergency department visits, younger folks are going to the emergency department. Hospitalizations are more related to older folks. And also we're seeing a distribution, a male-female distribution as well. And I think this is mostly related to outdoor work and younger folks not taking precautions for heat, or are in situations where they're working in extreme heat conditions. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the mental health toll, and for those of you who work with youth and young folks, thinking about where they are in terms of their anxiety levels on this stuff. I work with a lot of youth, and the climate movement is really touching off a whole bunch of issues for them. We see that a lot of them are now being very activated, and that's a good thing. And so you want to tap into that and help our youth to process what's happening and give them ways that they can make concrete changes in their communities. And so a lot of them are feeling motivated as well as angry and afraid, but we want to tap into that motivation and really support our local communities to do things that will help us here in Rhode Island, because we do feel pretty helpless when it comes to national politics or even international politics in terms of what we can do. So we need to act locally. And one of the ways that we're doing that here in Rhode Island is through our Resilience Action Strategy. And this is part of the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, and all of the agencies have members that are part of this action strategy. The Rhode Island Department of Health has been active on the Community Health and Resilience chapter. We've been working on some resilience activities in local communities, trying to fund some projects, looking at ways we can do cooling assistance, looking at our critical infrastructure in terms of drinking water and protecting our drinking water for the future, and looking at emergency preparedness as well. So one of the things that we're working on locally is our health equity zone community resilience. And we did a project with 3 health equity zones: Newport, Central Falls, Pawtucket, and Providence, and trying to get them to understand their strengths and weaknesses in terms of how resilient their communities are to climate change. They did some workshops locally. They did some surveys to try to find out where their weaknesses were. In Central Falls, we planted some trees with the green team from Groundwork Rhode Island, and they created a climate group in Pawtucket and Central Falls so that residents could get together and work on solutions. And so we're continuing to work with these groups on ways that we can support tree planting efforts, emergency preparedness, getting teams of folks together to support residents in some of the health equity zones. So now we can talk about a little bit of the disaster preparedness efforts that we're doing. I don't know if Tom is on the call.
I'm here.
You are, okay. Great.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I can advance the slides if you want to just tell me.
Oh, sure.
When.
Yeah, please. I'll let you know when you can advance the slides and all that stuff. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for having me. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Thomas Smith. I work for the Center for Emergency Preparedness and Response at the Rhode Island Department of Health, contracted out through Rhode Island Parent Information Network. I work there part-time, about 10 to 15 hours a week, talking about promoting the Rhode Island Special Needs Emergency Registry, which we're going to talk about this. And we talk about keeping loved ones safe, emergency preparedness, and exactly what Rachel was ending on, and really some really interesting slides you had, what you were talking about with climate change. It's really fascinating. And how do we prepare for it, right? How do we prepare for climate change or COVID or a hurricane or a thunderstorm, lightning storm? You know, so it's really, really crazy. But my day job is I'm a fireman, an EMT in the town of Burrillville. And so I talk about community health. I advocate for community health in my area. I work closely with community health centers, such as Well One, particularly that's around the state. So I have a little bit of experience. I'm the infection control officer for the department. So you know, I had a lot of experience dealing with COVID-19 and that sort of thing. But you can move the slide forward. But presentation we're talking about today, guys, is keeping loved ones safe. So I like to do this I talk to HEZs, I talk to Health Equity Zone people there. I was just there last spring, talking in Newport to the HEZ there. It was really nice folks down there, and that's a really good HEZ. They're very active. You know, they have the fairs there and that sort of thing. So it's really cool. But we talk about, you know, who depends on you, right? So I always talk about, you know, as I get older, right? I'm married, I have a wife, you know, we're going to depend on each other as we get older, right? It's just inevitable of, you know, people develop chronic diseases over time. So we always ask people in the community, who depends on you, and do people depend on, you know, do people have dogs, cats, animals, you know, because they depend on you, that sort of thing. So you can move forward. So we talk about emergency management, right? And this is the clause that, this is like my stick on: no level of government can take care of each person individually at the same time. And that holds true as we looked with what's going on in the world today. You know, really, we can't take care, you know, government can't take care of everybody, but communities can look out for each other. And the way I see it is, people are helping people, really, and that's what all we're doing here. We have to look out for each other, but we also have to look out for the environment, like Rachel was talking upon. We have to be advocates, not for ourselves, but for what's going on in the world today with, you know, our infrastructure, our environment, that sort of thing. But we always have to take steps to be responsible for ourselves, right? That's what mom and dad always teaches us, right, as our parents. And we have to teach each other, people in the community, that we have to be prepared and that sort of thing. So you can move on there, Rachel. So one of the things we talk about with people in the community is my emergency plan. And we have down at Seeper. I don't know if you guys know Amy Dow down there, or Britton Bates Manny. We have this nice packet. It's my emergency plan. It's a nice material that we give people, we give folks in the community. But one of the things is we tell them, make a plan, right? And, being a fireman, this is the simplest form is, okay, if there's a fire in our house, where are we gonna meet? Well, there's a mailbox in our front yard, away from the house. That's the meeting place. So that's a plan. That's a plan in place. All right. So if the house floods, what do? Do we evacuate? Do we try and, mitigate the issue? What's our plan if something happens? So we always want to tell people what's going on. We want them to think of things that are going to happen, and, you don't want to have doomsday ideas all the time, but you're going to have to think about these things when, the weather is nice, when, life is good. You want to prepare yourself at that time, not when things are going on, not when there's a rainstorm right now and, there's flooding. Oh, we got to make a plan now. That's too late. You got to do it in advance. You got to do it ahead of time. The other thing we talk about is make a kit, right? The CDC a couple of years ago had this great idea for marketing on preparedness. And one of them was everything was zombie, like the zombie shows. So they talked about a zombie preparedness kit. And basically it's you can move forward, Rachel, because they'll talk about the kit in the next slide. You can forward that one. So basically, you want to have two things. You either want to have a go bag, you want something in your car, and you want to have something for your service animal or your pet, right? And you want to have a home disaster kit. So whether you're sheltering in place, right? So always comes to mind, right? With COVID-19, of course, have a home disaster supply kit, right? Everybody was going to the supermarket and hoarding and buying all these things, and we could tell that people weren't prepared. People weren't prepared for this, and that's the same thing like with climate change and that sort of thing. If we know that the sea level is going to rise in so long, we got to prepare ourselves for that. Like Rachel talked about hurricane barriers, there is a plan there to make sure that we're safe in downtown Providence, and dealing with the Narragansett Bay and the Providence River and that sort of thing. So there's somewhat of a plan in infrastructure wise, but personal preparedness is a real big issue. It's one of those things where we have to tell people and we have to preach it that, hey, are you all set at home? What's going on? I make sure that you have canned goods, non-perishable food. You make sure you have all the things, all the bells and whistles. You can go to the next slide, Rachel. It'll talk more about the kit. But these are some of the items that I'm telling you about. This would be your home disaster supply kit. And again, this isn't a lot of money. We're not asking people to buy a kit in one day and blow their weekly paycheck on this. What we're trying to do is course it out over a couple of months, so you're not spending all your money on this kit, because you may never use this kit, which is a good thing, right? And the other thing is, we always tell people, don't wait till your food goes bad in this kit, and always buy things that you like. Like, I don't like lima beans. I'm not going to buy lima beans and put them in my supply kit, but I might put some black beans or some B&M, right? Some Bush's beans, that sort of thing. I might put them in my kit. So, but know when the expiration is up so you can actually cook with it when that goes up. The other thing is water. Water is vital. So important, cooking, bathing, that sort of thing, if the power goes out. So the rule of thumb is, and this is CDC and FEMA guidelines, is we want to have a gallon of water per person per day up to 72 hours or 3 days. And that's pets. You got to have pets included. You got to always account for your animals. But usually you're supposed to drink 8 8-ounce glasses a day, or a gallon of water a day to be healthy and be hydrated. So I always carry, like, during when COVID happened and that sort of thing, I bought 6 gallons of water. It was me and my wife, and I bought some more water for my dog. I have a dog at home, just to be prepared. She's laughing at me. It's still downstairs in our house, but I know that we're prepared for that if we ever lose, drinking water and that sort of thing. Can opener, you gotta have a can opener. You'll see trash bags. Again, if plumbing goes, how are you gonna dispose your waste? There's a lot of things. You can see the container there in the slide where, it's plastic, it's rigid. If there is water that gets on it, it's okay. It keeps everything protected from water damage and that sort of thing. Flashlight, transistor radio, a battery pack to charge your phone. Those are really relatively cheap. I love them. I use them all the time. Spare sets of batteries, the wrench. The reason why the wrench is we're getting gas more and more, natural gas lines throughout our critical infrastructure throughout Rhode Island, particularly where I live in town in Burrillville. We're getting gas lines on my street right now. So one of the things is you got to know how to shut off the gas, and it's very simple to do, but you got to have a wrench just in case if something happens. Really crazy thing that happened a couple years ago was in Newport, and our focus was in Newport when they had the gas outage. I believe it was January, February of, I want to say 2019, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was last year. So what happened was I met with the Newport Fire Department. I met with that shift that worked that night when the initial calls came in for power outages or lack of heating in the house. So they got a lot of calls regarding that, and they were asking me, what to do. And we'll talk about the special needs when they had to call some people on the registry. Also, last but not least, is the first aid kit. Obviously, it's vital. You got to have first aid if something goes wrong. And again, talking about not one form of government can take care of people, but it might take some time getting help coming to you if, say, you have a natural disaster in your home, there's flooding, there's a hurricane, tornado, that sort of thing. So we got to be prepared. Now this is the home disaster kit. Rachel, you can move to the next slide for me. Thank you. And then this is to be stayed informed. This is what we talk about. There's these transistor radios that are battery powered, or you can crank them, or we have Code Red. Code Red is a great tool. You can Google it online, Code Red, but every emergency management agency or police department or fire department uses Code Red, and it gets messages out. During COVID-19, we used it a lot to get messages out in local cities and towns where they're able to get vital information. The citizen is able to get vital information, what's going on. For example, in the town of Burrillville, they used, since school was out and, that children had an issue with getting food, so they did a daily thing where they would go and pick up their food and that sort of thing. So there was information on that, information on hygiene and mask wearing and that sort of thing. And we also use this for storms as well. We'll get a Code Red information. You can, if anybody has any questions regarding this, I can give all these materials. Just shoot me an email, and my email is at the end of the last slide when we get there. But the other thing is the Rhode Island Special Needs Emergency Registry and 211. 211 is really a great thing. It's United Way. We have it in the city of Providence. If you call 211 and you have a question about anything, even COVID related or anything, a parent is new to this state and they need services, they will help that person out. You can move forward, Rachel. I think it talks about RISNER. Yeah, so RISNER is the Rhode Island Special Needs Emergency Registry. It's only statewide, only for Rhode Islanders. There's a couple different registries throughout the country. Florida has one, I believe. Massachusetts has a countywide or a town-wide registries. So what is it? It's for all Rhode Islanders any age that have any chronic disease or special health care need. It's free. It's a great service. We use it, EMA, police, fire, you use this type of thing. So two ways it works is someone that has, I talk about this make-believe person, Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones lives at home. She's a diabetic. She uses a walker, but her daughter lives down the street, but Mrs. Jones still maintains her independency. And these are one of the things that we talk about in the future as getting older, right? Moving forward, we are trying to be as more independent as we can than trying to go to a nursing home. People don't want to go to nursing homes. That's the last thing that they want to do. So we want to maintain people's independency. That's why we talk about RISNER. So when someone enrolls, it's an online registry, and it's protected. It's HIPAA protected. Rachel, you work at the Department of Health? Yeah. So I can't share this information to Rachel. She can't get it if she asks for it. It's HIPAA protected. We don't share their medical information through this this registry. So two ways it works. Again, Mrs. Jones signs up. It's she puts that she has a mobility issue. She has diabetes, and she's partially blind. And so when, say, she falls, she calls 911. That information is the 911 operator. It pings it via cell phone or it pings it by their address, and that address information will come up, and they will let police and fire know about this person that is on this special needs registry. We use it a lot for children with autism because we want to know. It helps police and fire how to respond. They may respond in a different manner, meaning no lights or sirens. We don't want to scare a person with autism. We don't want them to run or go in the traffic or get upset. We don't want to startle them. So it helps us respond in a manner to be safe. And the other way it works is in a preparedness level. Say there's flooding or hurricane or that sort of thing. We are able to call that person on the registry, and we know in our area, for example, in the city of Providence, there's roughly, I think 5,000 or 6,000 people enrolled on the registry. So they're able to break it up into either zip code or by neighborhood, and they're able to, if there's flooding in that area, they're able to give that person a call that they see on the registry that has a mobility issue that they may not be able to get out of that house, and services or fire, police, or whatever are able to get that person out first, other than someone that's ambulatory and that sort of thing. You can move forward, Rachel, to the next slide. So anybody can enroll. Like I said, it's for Rhode Islanders with disabilities, chronic conditions. We talk about people, in schools. School nurses may sign children up on it. We try to, when we do outreach, we try to hit every different demographic or every different age group, or we meet with like Better Breathers Club at Miriam and Rhode Island hospitals to see people that have COPD. We try to meet with people that have had strokes. So if they do go home, we try and get them on the registry. All the CX, the special education advisory committees that are in all the cities and towns, we meet with them periodically. We go to fairs, that sort of thing, just to make sure that we're hitting every demographic, and to make sure that people are self-identifying or registering, and family or friends can do it. People that are getting discharged from hospitals that may need a little more help, but they still are independent. We want them to get signed up on the registry. It does not guarantee assistance, or it may be a delay in assistance. Like I said, if something's going on, it's fires in a multiple block, it's going to take some time. But they know that someone that is enrolled, that someone's going to look on that registry in that city or town and make sure that they're all set. So you can move to the next one, Rachel. This is the enrollment form. You can go to health.ra.gov /EM registry, and you can go to the next slide. And you can register online, guys, or you can get paper copies and that sort of thing. But yeah, Carrie, absolutely. If anybody has any questions, you can please let me know. Sounds good.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Tom. I don't see any questions typed into the chat box. So what I can do is I will, if anyone has questions, please feel free to ask. I think I can, you can unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question in person. I do have one question though for myself. With regard to the emergency plan kits or any of the information, Tom, you mentioned that people could contact you. Is this something that is electronic? Because if it is, you could forward it to me and I could forward it out to the group, or is it something that's, on paper?
Absolutely. So can you guys see the last slide with my information on it?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So if you guys go to health.ri.gov /EM registry, that'll take you to the Special Needs Emergency Registry website. And basically, you can sign people up, enroll people online, or if you have any questions about materials or that sort of thing, that's in there too. You can order materials, flyers, brochures, and that sort of thing. But you can order enrollment forms as well if you want people to do paper copies or that sort of thing. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email, tsmith@ripon.org. But the digital version or the online version of enrolling somebody on the registry is very, very simple. It takes less than 5 minutes. You can do it with a cell phone, tablet, or PC. It's a great thing. But the nice thing about the online registry form, that person goes right into the registry, as opposed to a paper copy where you got to mail it in to us and then we physically fill it out for them.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
I was also wondering about the emergency plan kits information. Where would people go for that? So
I can, if it's something separate, like what do you mean, like the plan, like my emergency plan, like
yeah,
the paper?
You said there were some things. You said that there was some information available where people could, figure out what should they have in an emergency kit, and
yes,
how to prepare in advance or whatnot. So where would that come from? Would that come from either you or Rachel, or?
Yeah, that can come from me. That can be a side thing where I can get X amount of copies of the planning. And I think we have at CEPR brochures for how to build a kit. But I don't think that's something that they give out on the health department website. But I can get you some. Just if you need how many, I can get them and I can order them for you guys. But same thing with the packets, my emergency plan packets, which is like a thick, pieces of paper that are stapled. I can get those to you. You're just going to let me know in advance how many that you guys need and that sort of thing.
And do they come in other languages?
That I don't. Maybe I think Spanish they do.
Okay. So for the group that's online right now, if you shoot me an email, if you're interested in either of these materials, I'll send a request to Tom, and then he can send them here, and I can get them out to the group.
That sounds good to me.
Someone is asking also, and this is a question for both Rachel and Tom. I did record this session, I kind of hit it, Rachel, after you were about 3 or 4 slides in because I didn't remember. But people are wondering if they can, if I can share this information with them. You had some really nice slides, Rachel, as well about, you know, risk and whatnot. And our community health ambassadors take this information and share it with our, you know, people in the community. So it's key that we have information available to people. So would you mind if we shared the slides upon request?
Yeah, that would be great. I
Okay.
sent you a link to download them, I believe.
And someone just chatted that in the emergency information and the special needs registry is available in Spanish and Portuguese. I guess they went online and found it, so that's good to know as well.
Yes, it's the enrollment form and the brochure, I believe, comes in 13 different languages.
Oh, great.
Talking about the My Emergency Plan Kit and the other brochure for like how to build a kit and that sort of thing, Preparedness kit, that I believe that's only English. That stuff comes from like FEMA or the CDC, but there are other materials that you can order, such as the brochures, the enrollment forms, how to sign up on Code Red, and how to get prepared today, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So there's a ton of materials that you can order. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get those materials from our users.
Well, is there the last call? Does anyone else have any other questions? I will be sending out the link for the evaluation, very brief. It's just about 4 questions, 4 or 5 questions to the group. And I appreciate Rachel and Tom, both of you, for presenting to us today. And if anyone has questions that weren't answered or you think of things later on, I have contact information for both Rachel and Tom. So I'd be happy to share that with you if you send me an email. Hold on a second. I think we have one more message here. Someone is asking, this person works for housing, one of the housing authorities, and is wondering if this kind of a presentation could be brought out into the community, if either of you, to share with residents, if either of you is able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. We've done it. We've done it before, and we'll do it gladly. Okay,
great. So I will, as a matter of fact, whoever wants that information, if you contact me, I can send you Rachel's contact info and put you in direct connection with her.
Yeah,
okay, folks, sorry for the little glitch about signing on. Tom, you missed that part. We had a little issue with the Zoom link, and I'll try to figure that out for next time so that doesn't happen again. But I appreciate both of you today, and I appreciate for everyone who attended, and hope to see you in August. We have another presentation coming up in August with the Capital Good Fund, and they will be talking about credit and tips for improving credit and all kinds of things about finance, especially now in these days when people are either in jobs or out of jobs and trying to get back to work and in our uncertain times now today. And we want to encourage everybody to continue to remind people to participate in the census because it's very important as well. So thanks for attending today, everyone, and I hope to see you in August.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Tom. Bye.